Domantas Sabonis dominates and Keon Ellis catches fire against the Washington Wizards, who may have had a couple of players auditioning for a potential Kings trade. We'll talk about it all right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Now is the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, no need to win to get that bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor, reporter for ABC 10 News. And the best part about this Kings win tonight, number one, it got the Kings to 500 at home, which really is mediocre, but based off of how bad the Kings were at home as early as 3 weeks ago, it's nice to see Sacramento get back to the 500 mark and now 2 games over the 500 mark as a whole with their record on this season. Number two is that the Kings finally won a game in the throwback 0-2 Sacramento purple unis with the, it's kind of hard to see because it's out of focus, but the Kings court down there with the old-fashioned logos from the 90s and 2000s that I grew up on, right? It's my favorite court. It's my favorite look. They're my favorite jerseys. And to this point, the Kings had been god-awful wearing them and playing on this court. Well, they finally got a win. They beat the Washington Wizards 123-100 in a game where Domantas Sabonis absolutely freaking dominated, right? 29 points, 12 of 16 from the field. I don't know if Domas has had more dunks in a game in his career than what he had tonight. 18 rebounds. The dude is back where he belongs at the top of the mountain in terms of number one in the NBA. When it comes to rebounding, he's averaging over 14 rebounds a game, which is a over 1 rebound improvement over last season, which is when he won the rebound championship for the second consecutive year. Well, he's well on his way to a three-peat. He also had 4 assists and a steal. In addition to being the league leader in rebounding per game, Domantas Sabonis also leads the league by now a pretty comfortable margin in three-point shooting percentage. And this isn't like a once-in-a-blue moon that he's taking a three, right? It's not like he's taking maybe a three a game and just hitting a high percentage of them. Oh, no. Domantas Sabonis is taking multiple threes a game. Tonight, he was 2 of 3 from three-point range. He is now up to 48.4% from three-point range. Nearly 50% on the season. That is number one in the league, a whole percentage point better than, guess who? Nikola Jokic. In so many statistical categories, it's always Domantas Sabonis and Nikola Jokic at 1 and 2 in some kind of capacity, right? Those two are the 2 best centers in the league. It makes sense. And Domantas Sabonis now up there in three-point shooting. The confidence that he has to let that shot fly, and more than that, the confidence that we've seen from Domantas Sabonis. We saw it in this game when he recognized that nobody on the Wizards could stop him. We've seen it many times over the course of this season. Domantas Sabonis' confidence to either let that three fly or to attack the rim and attack the basket, I'm telling you, is going to shock a ton of people. People, whether it's national media members or fans outside of Sacramento or non-Kings fans, are continuing to judge Sabonis based off of the only games that they really watched him play, which were a couple of years ago or almost a couple of years ago when the Kings played the Warriors in the playoffs, right? And Sabonis didn't have the best series. When the Kings get back to the postseason, when the Kings get back on that national stage and everybody is forced to watch Sabonis again, they're going to be floored by how much better he looks. They're going to be floored by how aggressive and great he is offensively, scoring the basketball, and they're not going to have a single thing that they're going to be able to say to undermine what Domas does or how great Domas is as a player, right? Their last card up their sleeve, which is that he's got to do it in the playoffs, is going to be gone. They don't know it yet, but their card of he's not a $40 million or more per year player because he's not a go-to scorer. He's not someone that can go and get you a bucket. That card is withering away as we speak, right? Because he's showing that when he has the matchups, when he has the ability, when he has the hot hand, or when the Sacramento Kings need it from him, he will go into attack mode. He will look to score. And now he's doing it on all three levels to such a level that defensively, you don't know what you can do against him. You want to try and guard him in the post, good freaking luck. He'll outmuscle you, right? You want to sag off him and give him that mid-range shot or that three-point shot, bang, best three-point shooting percentage in the NBA. What do you do against Domantas Sabonis? The answer is hope and pray and try not to get beat up. Actually, I know the answer is hit the guy in the face. That's all anybody ever does. Hit Domantas Sabonis in the face. That's the only shot you have of beating him at this point. He absolutely bullied Alex Sarr in this game. Sorry, rookie. Welcome to the NBA. I know you're playing on a god-awful, horrible team in the Washington Wizards. But, man, you got your first taste of Domantas Sabonis, and you better be happy that you're only playing Sabonis twice a season being in the Eastern Conference, because Sabonis absolutely manhandled Alex Sarr in this game. Alex Sarr had no answer. Jonas Valanciunas had a pretty good game, and Sabonis and Valanciunas very familiar with each other. Valanciunas was a mentor of Domantas Sabonis because both are on the Lithuanian national basketball team. So both of them have a very good familiarity with each other, and we're going to talk more about Jonas Valanciunas a little bit later on in the show. But Domas, a dominant performance in this game, was fun to see. Then you talk about fun. We got to talk about Keon Ellis, right? We've heard so much of Doug Christie talking about joy, right? He wants the Kings to play with joy. De'Aaron Fox was the one that first started talking about this weeks ago when the Kings were in the midst of a horrible losing streak, right? The losing streak that got Mike Brown fired when the Kings lost 5 straight games at home. After one of those games, De'Aaron Fox took to the podium and said this team has to find their joy or their enjoyment in basketball again. Well, they found that, and nobody is exuding more joy or embracing that more than Keon Ellis is, right? The joy that Keon Ellis is playing with tonight, 18 points, 6 of 8 from three-point range, all of his points coming from behind the three-point arc, one of his threes. After De'Aaron Fox won a jump ball tip, Keon Ellis smothered, step back, buzzer beater 3 to end the third quarter. That was a hell of a moment. The pop here in the Golden One Center was incredible for that moment. Keon also had 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Keon is also one of the best three-point shooting percentage, or has one of the best three-point shooting percentages in the league along with Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis is number 1. Keon Ellis moved up from tied for 13th to now alone at 8th. After tonight's game, he is shooting 44.6% from three-point range, and we know how much of a lockdown defender that he is. He is the epitome of 3-and-D. He, in so many ways, is exactly what the Sacramento Kings have been looking for years, and they found it in an undrafted rookie who started as a two-way player and over the past year has scratched and clawed and fought and hustled his way to this point. I got the opportunity to talk to Keon Ellis and ask him a question in his post-game press conference, and I asked him about the joy that he's playing with. His answer belongs on a t-shirt, and you're also going to hear Doug Christie talk about him a little bit at the end of this soundbite. Keon, De'Aaron Fox and Doug Christie have both talked about playing with joy, and you seem to be an example of that with how you're playing recently. I'm sure the last year of your life has been a whirlwind with everything going on, but I guess how much joy are you playing with right now, and how much fun are you having just with your journey to this point?
That's a good question. I really just be chilling for real. I just be chilling. And then, when I'm out on the court, I'm just playing basketball and, trying to make the right plays. And I think the joy just comes within. I mean, everyone, we've been playing basketball for so long. So, with how we've been playing lately, it's contagious with the wins, just how we've come together as one. So, it's definitely easy, when you're coming in the gym, you're having fun, you're smiling, everyone's just having a good time around the gym. So, I think that helps, when you're winning.
Yeah, he just be chilling. Keon is, I've told you guys before, he has things that you don't teach. There's instincts and timing and different things on defense. He's found his way and found his shot, and shooting is a it comes and goes, but he continues to hone it. He continues to work on it. And I try to just give him the confidence that shoot the basketball. If you're open, we trust you. We watch you do your work. So we know that if someone's going to shoot it, you're one of our best guys. Let that thing fly. And then defensively, he takes on the toughest opponent. So I have a massive amount of respect for what Keon brings to us and what he means to our team.
Keon Ellis' story is one of the best in the NBA. It's certainly one of the best here in Sacramento. And now his story has reached a new, maybe greatest chapter of all, because he's playing for a perfect fit head coach, right? Regardless of how I feel or how anybody feels about Mike Brown and who he was as a head coach, it is unfathomable how this guy got DNPs, how this guy did not play at times for Mike Brown, because he's playing for Doug Christie, and he is, again, a perfect fit with Doug Christie, who Doug is as a coach, what Doug is trying to emphasize, right? Keon Ellis fits with it, and it's natural. It's instinctual. He's just chilling. That's what he said. I'm just chilling. Like, I'm just doing those. I'm just going out on the floor and I'm playing basketball. And Keon Ellis is like playing basketball. The normal way that Keon Ellis plays is the exact way Doug Christie preaches and the exact way the Sacramento Kings need from a player like that. It's a perfect fit. It's a match made in heaven. And hopefully Keon Ellis is wearing number 23 for the Sacramento Kings for a very long time. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with PrizePicks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, PrizePicks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. The way it works, you pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. If you think LeBron is going to drop 30 points in a game, or maybe Luka is going to get more than 8 assists, Keon Ellis is going to hit more than 3.5 threes or whatever, PrizePicks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. I've been using PrizePicks for the last couple of seasons. Let me tell you, I'm having a blast. There's so many different ways to play. Let me tell you this, taking the over or the more on Domantas Sabonis' rebounds is basically free money. You can print money with it. Trust me, unless that number gets so astronomically high. That's what PrizePicks has started doing. The number is so high for Domas rebounding the basketball because he's been so dominant that maybe we might have to start waiting for it to come down a little bit. Maybe I've cheesed it a little too much. That's just an example of some of the amazing and fun and creative ways that you can play every single Kings game or every single night in the NBA on PrizePicks. It's the perfect time to join. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. No need to win to get that bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. There aren't too many messages that Doug Christie has had for his team in his short time as a head coach that I haven't liked. But one of his messages or one of his mindsets for the team really stuck with me today. And I think it is a perfect way to sum up what this team has struggled with and what this team needs. A lot of people are going to look at this game and go, Matt, big deal. You beat the Washington Wizards. They're the worst team in the league. They've won 6 games, right? I think only 6 games this season. They're god-awful. The Sacramento Kings should have beaten them by 23 points. You're right. But here's the thing. If you've been watching Kings basketball, especially over the last couple of years, you know that losing these games at home to these teams, especially coming off of a great win like the Kings had over Houston a couple nights ago, a lot of times these games were scary. Trap games. The Kings would lose these games. The Kings have lost to the Wizards in this building a couple of times over the past couple of years. Kings lost to the Detroit Pistons, who are way better this season, but last season were terrible. They lost to the Detroit Pistons in this building, right? So these are games that the Kings have historically struggled with being able to put these opponents away. And what Doug Christie says, his mindset is the faceless opponent. I love this message. It's all about what he says is everything's about the Kings. It's all about the Kings. We don't put a face on our opponent. We don't care who our opponent is, what they look like, how they play, what they struggle with, what their record is. It does not matter. It's about us. We play the same way every single night, regardless of who our opponents are. Our opponents might as well be featureless, faceless, not have names, not have identities, not have jerseys, just be in our way. Just be obstacles. But we play the same way. We are the Sacramento Kings. This is Sacramento Kings basketball. This is how we're going to play every single night, no matter who we are facing. That message is music to my freaking ears. It's exactly what this team has needed. And one of the benefits of Doug being the interim head coach is he's been here through all of it. Right? He's been on that bench over the last couple of years sitting through these losses. So he knows exactly what this team has gone through and how they've struggled in this way. He knows exactly what it's like. So he comes in preaching this message of, I don't care if we're playing the Pistons, the Celtics, the greatest team ever, the Jordans, Bulls, doesn't matter. We're playing the same way. And we believe when we play our game, we can beat anybody. And it's working. I love that message tonight, and that's what makes a win like this over a god-awful Wizards team, it makes it impressive. It makes it impressive from the Sacramento Kings perspective. It makes it impressive from people like myself, people like you, who have watched this team lay eggs and fail to take advantage of these opportunities time and time and time and time again, because it mattered more to them what the name was on the opposing team's jersey than the name on their own and what that name represents in the way of how they want to play basketball. I love this from Doug Christie. I love what we're seeing. I love this message. And it's another way where this team is clearly responding to him. Speaking of the Wizards, they might have had a couple players auditioning for the Sacramento Kings tonight. Number one, and the most obvious one, is a name that's been connected to the Sacramento Kings forever. Kyle Kuzma. It was an interesting moment. I was shooting just a couple players when they were walking out of the floor before tip-off, right? And they're all greeting each other and dapping each other up. And Kyle Kuzma walks out onto the floor, and before he greets anybody, guess who he goes to? He goes right to the opposite end of the floor, right at center court, and he goes up and daps up Kings owner Vivek Ranadive. Now, people got to understand, it's pretty well known that the Kings were heavy in negotiations with Kyle Kuzma in free agency in the past. He could have chose to come here to Sacramento. He chose to stay in Washington, which I don't know if he's regretting or not. But he made that decision. So I don't know if Kyle Kuzma was trying to build up some good grace with the Kings and Kings ownership and say, hey, get me the hell out of here, I'll play for you. But the game that he played wasn't the best of auditions, and maybe he's sandbagging it so he can lower his trade value so the Kings can have an easier time getting him. I don't know. That's probably not true at all, but it's fun to say. Kuzma had 13 points, 3 of 15 from the field, 7 rebounds, 4 turnovers in this game. I'm good. I'm good, man. It's not that I don't think Kyle Kuzma could help this team, but Kyle Kuzma hasn't played meaningful basketball in years. He's been in Washington, and no disrespect to Wizards fans, no disrespect to that organization. They're horrendous right now. Do they even have a direction? Who knows? Their young players aren't developing. Their veterans, quote unquote, are just there. Jordan Poole just chucks up as many shots as he wants there, but on a terrible basketball team. Like, what are the Wizards? Where are they going? I don't even think their fans know the answer to that question. Or maybe their front office doesn't even know the answer to that question. I'm good on Kyle Kuzma. I don't need Kuzma. I'm fine. If the Kings try and get involved and try and get him, I guess that's great. I'm sure as hell not giving up a draft pick in any kind of Kyle Kuzma deal. No shot. Matching salaries, maybe if it makes sense. I'm not giving up a draft pick, a first-round pick for sure, in a Kyle Kuzma trade. Jonas Valanciunas, though? Well, I'm not giving up a first-round pick for Jonas Valanciunas either, to be clear, especially considering the fact that Jonas Valanciunas is, in theory, only worth, or the asking price for Jonas Valanciunas is just a couple of second-round picks. Valanciunas was really good in this game. Jonas Valanciunas, 23 points, 9 of 11 from the field, 12 rebounds, 3 assists. Go get him. Go get him. Now, don't go and get him if it's the only move you can make, right? And if you go and get a Jonas Valanciunas, you probably don't go out and get a John Collins. So if you're tired of playing Danny Ainge's game and you're just not going to get anywhere with Danny Ainge playing hardball like he always does, then fine. Go out and get Jonas Valanciunas, and while it's a center, not a forward, you have a bona fide, established big that can back up Domantas Sabonis, that can give Domantas Sabonis a little more rest on a nightly basis. that gives you a really, really solid 1-2 center punch that maybe they could play together on the floor at the same time, especially with Domantas Sabonis spacing the floor and knocking down threes. I don't know. I don't hate the idea, though, especially if he's only going to cost you a couple second-rounders. Now, to be fair, because the Sacramento Kings decided to give second-rounders away just to get rid of Sasha Vezenkov and Davion Mitchell to the Toronto Raptors, getting a player back in Jaden McDaniels who never even made the team to begin with. I don't know what the Sacramento Kings are doing in terms of asset management with second-round picks, because that might come back to bite them in these sweepstakes. They do technically have another second-rounder that I think is Chicago's, but it's so heavily protected. It's basically pick 55 through 60, which means whoever's pick it is, and again, I think it's Chicago's. James Ham of the Kings Beat did an excellent breakdown of this. Go and check it out. But basically, that team has to be one of the top 5 teams in the league, or they keep that pick. So the Kings essentially aren't getting that pick. They're going to only have one second rounder. So maybe they find out a way to go out and get another second rounder, because they still have some second rounders from 2026 and 2025 tied up in the Kevin Huerter deal, or 2027 tied up in the Kevin Huerter deal, because remember, if the draft pick doesn't convey, the protections on the draft pick doesn't convey over the next 2 seasons for Kevin Huerter, then it turns into 2 future seconds for Atlanta. It's all convoluted, a mess. Basically, the Kings only really have one true second rounder that they can trade right now. So that might not be enough for Jonas Valanciunas. Find a way to sweeten that pot. Go out and get him if you can. I would not hate Valanciunas on the Sacramento Kings at all. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to those playoff games, especially if you're like me and are a Las Vegas Raiders fan and don't really even dream of the Raiders being in the playoffs at this point, FanDuel's got you covered. Makes the games a little more exciting for whoever you root for, or if you're just watching football casually. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. If I were to tell you that De'Aaron Fox only scored 12 points in a game, you would probably tell me, ooh, not a good night for De'Aaron Fox. A bad game. Well, according to Doug Christie, tonight's game for De'Aaron Fox, where he only scored 12 points and shot 4 of 12 from the field, was one of De'Aaron's better games of the season. De'Aaron had 5 rebounds. He had a season-high 13 assists, also a couple steals, and a block. First, let me have Doug Christie explain to you why he feels that this game for De'Aaron was one of his better games of the season. DC, we know De'Aaron Fox can score. This is back-to-back games where he hasn't really had to or hasn't had the scoring nights that we've come used to, but a 13-assist night tonight, made some big winning plays against Houston defensively, especially in the fourth quarter. How valuable is it to have a star that can go beyond just putting the ball in the bucket, and when he's having a quote-unquote off night, he can impact the game in other ways?
You know, I told you guys before the game, like, in my opinion, this isn't an off night for De'Aaron because scoring isn't everything in basketball. Like, this guy is, like, he's like that. And the fact that he can affect the game without putting the ball in the bucket all the time is next level, man. Like, he's drawing people, finding people. And then guess what? On the night when it clicks, you're going to be like, damn. And like, I am super, super excited and proud of him, man. Like, how he goes about his business. There are times where I'm like, you want this play? He's like, nah, my man's rolling. Let's rock with it. And I'm like, okay. Like, that's maturation. That's leadership. I'm here to win the ball game. I'm not here to be whatever everyone thinks I need to be. And that, to me, is everything. To watch him go on the journey and then to be on the journey with him. Like, this is probably, it sounds weird, but one of his better games. Like, he controlled the game in a way that the stats don't indicate, and that's big time.
I can't even begin to tell you how valuable it is to have a star that you know is capable of offensively going off at any time. But if he's having a night where he's not scoring the basketball, he still is so impactful in his time on the floor that he influences winning. That's what De'Aaron Fox has been over the last 2 games. I mean, tonight, he wasn't shooting the ball well. He wasn't really scoring the basketball either. He didn't need to. He was getting his teammates involved. I love what Doug Christie said there about, like, I asked De'Aaron at one point, like, should we drop a play for you? You want the ball? And he goes, nah, keep feeding the hot hand. Who might have been Keon, might have been Domas. We don't know who he was talking about at that point. But this is where I'm really starting to see De'Aaron Fox echo what he claimed in his interview with Draymond Green on Draymond's podcast and what he's saying in the negotiations with the Kings. Winning matters the most to him because this is winning basketball, right? This is, okay, I don't have it tonight. My teammates do. I can still impact winning by doing these things, so I'm going to go out and do these things. It's not all about me. It's not all about my points. It's not about my spotlight. It's really not even about me putting up the points and having the performances that I need to draw attention to myself as an all-NBA type player and therefore get a Supermax contract. Those don't look like De'Aaron's primary motivations. Winning does. And some people might look at these last 2 games with a critical eye and say De'Aaron wasn't trying as hard as he could have to score the basketball. I would say De'Aaron Fox was looking at this game with a very intuitive eye. He's looking at this game and going, here's how I can impact, here's how I can get the ball to the guys that are rolling, and also, here's how I can handle game 42 in the dead center of the season without overexerting myself, reacting to the game that's in front of me, and saving myself if I need to for not just 82 games of a regular season, but hopefully extra games in the playoffs. I think how De'Aaron Fox is playing is fantastic over these last 2 games. And here's the reality. The best case scenario for the Kings, and I think for De'Aaron Fox, is for both sides to find a way to work this out. Right? I'm not saying it's a horrible decision if both sides decide or any side decides to move on. But I think the best version of the Kings and the best version of De'Aaron Fox involves the 2 of them together. And I think Doug Christie has more than the capability as a motivator, a friend, a teammate, a coach, a leader, whatever you want to call him. Doug Christie has more than the ability to attract De'Aaron Fox or to keep him here or to... I'm not saying De'Aaron has to re-buy into what the Sacramento Kings are doing, but to understand that even though Mike is gone, who De'Aaron clearly had an attachment with or a relationship with, even though he's gone, it doesn't mean that the coaching carousel has begun anew and that the instability is back, like I was so worried about when the Kings fired Mike at the time. Doug has the ability to show that to De'Aaron, and I think that's a big deal. I want to talk about Malik Monk really quick, too. Malik Monk tonight, 23 points, 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 6 from three-point range, 4 assists, a steal, a block. Malik Monk is home. And we've known this, especially we knew this when he decided to re-sign here in Sacramento and take less money than he probably could have gotten elsewhere. But before the game, I asked Doug Christie about Malik, and Doug compared Malik to himself and to Bobby Jackson, in that both of those guys were kind of journeymen around the league. They were bouncing around. They were looking for their fit. They were looking for their NBA home. They found it here in Sacramento. Doug called Sacramento like the sheetrock that both of those players, himself and Bobby Jackson, were able to build the foundations of their career upon. And we're seeing Malik do the same thing, right? His turmoil of his start of his career and everything that happened in Charlotte. Going to Los Angeles and really getting a second chance, but never really being part of LA and never really being part of like the Lakers' future. He was just a role player there. Now coming to Sacramento and becoming, in my opinion, the heart of this team. He is the essential organ of this Kings team. I don't know how this team survives as constructed without Malik. If Malik had left, if the Kings had lost Malik in free agency, they would have lost the heart and their soul. Malik is so unbelievably important to this team. It's also not a coincidence that when Malik went down with injury at the end of last season, the Sacramento Kings, the wheels fell off and they limped to losing in the play-in to the New Orleans Pelicans. Right? I love Malik Monk. I genuinely think Malik Monk loves it here. The fans obviously love Malik Monk. He had an unbelievable windmill dunk in transition tonight to put the 18th exclamation point on this Kings win. It's just Malik's home. right? The same way we look at Sacramento as home for so many of those great Kings in the early 2000s in the early 2000s. I mean, look how many of them have stuck around, from Peja to Vlade to Doug. You have Mike Bibby coming back and working on the broadcast, right? Jason Williams pops in every now and then. Chris Webber is around, right? I think that's what Sacramento has become to Malik, and that really excites me, because I think Malik is going to go down as not the greatest King of all time or anything like that, but he's going to go down as one of the probably most fan favorite Kings of all time, in my opinion, if his career continues on the trajectory that it's currently at. Also want to show some love to DeMar DeRozan. Congratulations to DeMar with 24 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block tonight. DeMar DeRozan passed Allen Iverson for 29th all-time in scoring in the NBA. Doug Christie put it best after the game. Anytime you can pass Allen Iverson in anything, you're doing pretty good for yourself. So congratulations to DeMar DeRozan. Now we look ahead to Wednesday. Kings and Warriors. This matchup's actually looking pretty juicy for a number of reasons. Number one, the Warriors host the Boston Celtics tomorrow. If they beat the Celtics, the Kings and Warriors will have the exact same record coming into Wednesday night inside the Golden One Center. Now, Kings and Warriors inside the Golden One Center is always fun because we know there'll be Warrior fans here. Of course, Kings fans are going to show up. It's going to be an exciting night, an exciting atmosphere. I think it's a national TV game too, so it's going to be fun. But on top of that, with how close these teams are in the standings, plus the Warriors looking for a double dose of revenge, not just because they got their ass kicked by the Kings in Golden State or in San Francisco a week ago. The last time the Golden State Warriors were in this building was the play-in when the Kings kicked their ass and eliminated them and ended their season last year. So I think the Warriors are going to come in hungry a little bit to rebound against Sacramento, and the Kings are obviously playing really, really good basketball right now and are trying to create separation from the old man has-been Warrior dynasty, right? I know I'm going to piss off some people by saying that. I'm looking forward to Wednesday. I can't wait for that game. Now I want to hear from you. Also, really quick, shout out to the Lee family. Got to meet a wonderful family who is from LA. They're in enemy territory, but they're diehard Sacramento Kings fans. They came here to the Golden One Center as a Christmas gift and got to experience Kings basketball inside the Golden One Center for the first time. I'm very, very glad they got to see a beam. Loved meeting them. This is just an example of all the people that I've been connected with from around the world. I mean, they're from Los Angeles. I talked to fans from Argentina, fans from Europe, right? Like, I'm so humbled by the people from all walks of life and all over the country, all over the world that listen to and support Locked On Kings. And the fact that I'm able to connect to you because of a basketball team that we love and because of a sport that we love, I never take that for granted. So thank you, and shout out the Lee family. Thanks for coming by and saying hi. Now I want to hear from all of you. Your thoughts on tonight's win, your thoughts on the Kings-Warriors game coming up, Domantas Sabonis, Keon Ellis, De'Aaron Fox, any players from the Wizards that you would like the Kings to trade for? Hit me up at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.